Welcome to Monmouth in Focus, a program about the services and functions of Monmouth County government. I'm Commissioner Director Tom Arnone, your host for this segment of Monmouth in Focus. Today, I am very fortunate to have Deputy Director Nick DiRocco here, one of my fellow colleagues there with the great board that we have with Sue Kiley, Ross, and Lillian, and soon to be Eric Anderson there. And Nick has an extremely important role in our county government, and that's making sure our fiscal house is kept intact. And fortunately enough, you've done a great job for the residents of Monmouth County, and we're in a really great place. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about the budget process, because I know we're going to start getting into that, and or maybe even talk about what our budget is.
Sure.
And you know how complex it is, I guess.
Absolutely, no, it is very complex. And first of all, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you, Director. Really appreciate it. It's great that you do this program so the residents get a real good understanding of all that goes on in county government. And it starts with the budget, right? County government, any local government entity really starts with your budgeting. You can't make the investments that you need to move your county forward. You can't serve your residents right if you don't have a proper, efficient, and effective budget. And so in the county, as you know, we've spent a lot of time and effort over the last few years, especially in your time here, making sure that we put in place a process to ensure that we have a budget that makes the proper investments where we need in order to create a high quality life for our residents. At the same time, does not tax our residents in an overly burdensome way, and demonstrates fiscal prudence and proper stewardship, which is what
is actually the budget of the county?
So the budget's now north of $490 million. It's a big budget, and it's been fairly stable over the last, I would say 10 years, because we've done a lot of things, as you know, to privatize certain services, to try to hold the line on taxes. Even though our municipal tax levy has really stayed stable. Our tax rate has actually gone down every year over the last 10 years.
It's a very important component.
Very important. So as property values have risen, we haven't just tacked on new taxes onto the taxpayer. We've actually reduced the rate so that we try to keep that levy stable, and it's been effective.
And something that's kind of unique, and I know you coming from Wall Township, myself coming from Neptune City, when you're planning your budget, you're doing your budget, and it is what it is there. But it's a little different for us because we have 53 municipalities, and everybody's taxes are different because of the value of what
Correct.
The town is. And so, you might get some people say, wow, our county tax went down tremendously, then others say, oh, it stayed the same. Oh, it's slightly upticked it a little. So it's pretty interesting and complex. But, I guess basically, what are some of the items that our budget goes to?
Yeah, and as you hit the nail on the head, right? It's a very complex process. It's a big county. We have, as you know, over 630,000 residents. We've got almost 500, square miles of area. We've got almost 1,000 bridges and culverts that we maintain. Interesting fact I saw recently, which I didn't realize, is we have over 2 million square feet of public office space that we maintain.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and that's many of those buildings are residents coming in and out to conduct government business. So it's very important that we make the investments in all of that infrastructure to continue to, again, serve our residents properly, keep the tax rate low, but also invest in those areas and programs that are necessary.
So it's funny you bring that up about the office space that we have. So I have been a huge proponent. I thank you and the rest of the commissioners for joining in on that from the early stages, that I don't believe the county, if they don't have to, should be leasing buildings. County's going to be here forever.
Right.
So, own your assets. And we've really streamlined out of that and have really, I think we have very few leases compared to what it was
right.
20 years ago. So I guess it's getting to the time of budget time. And
right.
I know that you're working with the finance department right now. And so how does that process work?
Yeah, so like we said, the most important thing we can do, right, as the county elected officials is to craft a properly constructed budget. And so the process starts very early. We've already started, a few months ago, where we go to each of the department heads, basically, and all of the major business lines at the county, and find out where the priorities are, where the needs are, where the obstacles and hurdles are, where we need to make additional investments based upon our experience in last year's budget, where we maybe can divert some resources to other areas, and where we can, to your point a minute ago, where we can achieve efficiencies and economies of scale, and maybe getting rid of legacy leases and owning our assets, or maybe it's a matter of privatizing some resources or some
Which we've
programs,
done.
which we've done, I think, to great benefit to the taxpayer. So it's an all-in process where we start very early. We get to early next year where we'll have a proposed budget that we'll bring to the rest of the commissioners, and then we'll, of course, all 5 of us will debate the various components and where we want to make sure that our, where we're all aligned on the investments, and where we're not, we'll work through it. And then we'll get to a point in the spring where we'll be able to adopt that budget for the year and set it in place, and then make those investments that are necessary to keep us moving in the right direction.
So every year, I know that each and every one of us set goals, basically for our budget season. Obviously, none of us want to raise any dollars here, and we've
Right.
worked really hard to minimize that as much as possible. Ultimately, some things are out of our control, and maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the things that are out of our control.
I think the goal really this year more than ever, I know you and I have talked about it, is that we know that there's a lot of economic pressures right now, and there's been this, high inflation posture we've been in for a couple of years now. There's labor shortage, the labor market is stressed, wages and salaries aren't really matching inflation, and people's purchasing power is down. That's all our residents. Well, it has the same effect on us at the county. All of the goods and services that we're purchasing and all the things we need to do to run government are increasing in cost. So that puts added pressures on us. So our job is to make sure that we are finding ways to deal with those increased costs, not just pass them along to the taxpayer, because we don't do that.
That's right.
We don't just pass our problems on to other people. It's about finding different ways to provide the same level of services in a more cost-effective way, and that's going to be, I think, our goal going into this year, is to deal with those unique sort of macroeconomic pressures that we're currently dealing with, and find a way to continue to do our business.
What's interesting is all of us come from, local government there, and so each and every one of us know that they need help, and the municipalities need help, and they lean on us.
Yep.
And it's a lot different than it was years ago. It used to be 3 separate entities: the state, the county, and then the local municipalities. We have kind of joined services, the county and the local municipalities, and shared service has been a big proponent on both sides.
Yes.
Savings for the town, revenue share for us, which again gets put over to the taxpayers. Does that help in the preparation?
It's a great point, and I think we're one of the leading counties in that regard. I don't think there's any county that does as many shared services as we do. And you're right, it's a way to create economies of scale. We've got a lot of small, shore towns along the beach area. We've got a larger towns interior, where you've got a lot of opportunities, I think, for those local governments to join with each other, and then we provide the additional support at the county level to come in and do things like dispatch and a whole host of other areas around property taxes and things like that, where we're able to provide our county expertise and our county resources to alleviate some of those local burdens, and I think it's made a difference.
So on another note, I guess coming from the local town and handling Wall Township's budget with the rest of your committee people there, it's a big difference here.
Big difference.
It was eye-opening. It's truly like a Fortune 100 company,
Yeah.
500 company. It's amazing how large we are, and again, using that same word, complex it is.
Absolutely.
To handle all the different departments, the employee bases, make sure we give the quality of life
Right.
there.
And you have to
continue
do you have to deliver on your traditional government role, which is to provide support for seniors, low-income individuals, folks with disabilities, provide workforce development initiatives, but at the same time, try to do some of the innovative things we've done, like your Grow Monmouth program that you started, and supporting local businesses, supporting tourism, supporting our mom and pop Main Street businesses, providing all those sort of little less traditional government services, but those things really do move the needle on quality of life, and that's why I think we've been so successful.
So the one thing that's kind of outside the budget that you're preparing is our capital budget.
Correct.
And so people get confused that there's 2 separate budgets. So the one is the operational.
Right.
Maybe you could touch a little bit about what the capital budget is?
Right, you're right. It's a different, your O&M budget is really sort of money in, money out, whereas your capital budget is the areas you're investing long term.
Seems like it's money out.
It's a lot of money out, but I think there's a return on
Right.
that, right? And people see that. We're investing in our bridges and roadways. Transportation infrastructure is critically important. Moving people and commerce safely around the county is really a primary goal and function of county government. And we've made the investments year over year in those sort of transportation assets. The Reclamation Center, our county parks, 18,000 acres of parkland that we have to manage, Superior Court buildings for safety and security, everything the sheriff's office does. There's so much that goes into running an effective county government. It all starts with your capital budget, so you put the dollars in place to make sure that all your capital needs are met so that you are continuing to expand.
It's amazing because people don't realize when you drive down county roads, that they are kept up.
Right.
And we have 1,000 miles of lanes of roads. Well, there has to be a maintenance program on that. And, you know, I know that yourself and the rest of the commissioners and myself, we make sure that we do not shortchange our infrastructure, because at the end of the day, we just be kicking the can down the road.
Right.
And I think we put in roughly for overlaying, it's like, and into some other small capital projects there outside the grant programs, I think we do roughly over 28 million, right?
Yeah, and that's just into your point, and that's in things just like resurfacing. I mean, bridges and culverts are different. That's a whole separate
It's
animal.
another whole
but
grant
just
we get.
resurfacing roadways, keeping them safe and efficient. That helps property values as well, because you know, county roadways are maintained well, and that the people that live in and around those transportation assets, then their property values are affected by it. So, but you have to do that every year. There are some towns I know in New Jersey and some counties that don't put money every year in for those simple capital projects like you're talking about, and we do it every year in our budget.
And
make it a
it
priority.
definitely saves you in the long run.
Yeah.
It's being proactive instead of reactive. And,
Right.
you know, we're fortunate, as you know, and I'm sure we say all the time, we're so lucky to have the administration that we have here. I mean,
Absolutely.
you can't, I mean, they're just, you know,
Yeah,
I'll put them
got
up
top-notch
against any.
professionals. We really
And
do.
They care about the county. So, you know, it's a pleasure. I know we've been working together for how many years now? It's going on like
It's going on 4 years in
4
the county,
years.
but before then,
Yep.
I always leaned on the county
Yep.
when you were here
Yeah,
for
and
support when I was in Wall.
it's a pleasure working with you, and you're doing a great job
Thank
keeping
you.
our house in order over there, and it shows, and taxpayers should really, really appreciate it. So I want to thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Commissioner Duraco, for joining me today. That is all we have for this segment of Monmouth in Focus. See you next time.